Hello and welcome to the Latter day Ladies podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Moss, and today I am presenting an incredible conversation I had with Carrie Nygaard about the sacred connection between our body and our spirit. As women, we are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us that our worth is tied to how we look. This war on women keeps us focused on external standards instead of eternal truths. But God designed our bodies with a divine purpose. And when we develop a true partnership with them through intentional use of our agency, we step into a greater peace, power, and wholeness. To help us explore this topic, I'm joined by Carrie Nygaard, certified life and nutrition coach, mother of 6, and creator of Freedom with Body and Food. Carrie has helped over 1,000 women break free from food and body struggles, finding peace without restriction. To connect with Carrie's work, visit www.carrienygaard.com. Her wisdom is life-changing, and I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation.
Carrie, I am so excited to have you here today. And it is definitely a spirit inspired thing when we connected because I have been thinking for several months about how important it is for our bodies and our spirits and our minds to be in alignment and to have those things be generated by the spirit and not by our exterior surroundings. And so I am very excited to learn from you today. And I just wanted to know what inspired you to understand this connection, this partnering with your body and nurturing your spirit. How did you come into this work? Just lay it all out for us.
Well, the short answer is that it was a lot of suffering, and then a stroke of divine enlightenment, really. I think my story is similar to, I would say, majority of women, that for years and years, I dieted. And that can look different for lots of different women. But from the time that I was about 8 or 9, I remember thinking that there's something wrong with my body and that I should fix it. And then I remember going on a diet when I was probably first 12 or 13 and just kind of always feeling like I was in a battle with my body, and my weight would go up and my weight would go down. After I had about 2015, so I had 5 babies by then, and I had lost and gained the baby weight like 5 times already. And I'd been a certified personal trainer with the nutrition certification. And I just felt so, just so much dis-ease, like so much brain chatter around food, so much reflecting on if I'm good or bad based upon what I eat or don't eat. And I had decided that I was just not going to do it anymore. I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I have 5 kids. I'm going to knock this off. And I had talked to my husband about how just encumbered I was and thinking about food and always looking at my body and looking at other women's bodies. Like there was just so much going on up here that was really distracting me from things that I felt like were more important. And so I'd had enough, and I thought I would go to God in prayer. And I expected to feel a peaceful feeling, like God being like, well done, Carrie, you finally like have evolved and figured this out. But instead, these words just came really distinctly like a voice in my head, and it said, keep going, Carrie. And I was like, I was like, what? What? Did you not just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sure I'll gain weight, but I don't care. I just want to think about other things. And then it came again, keep going. And it was like, keep going, Carrie. And I thought, okay, I don't know what that looks like or what that means. But I really went on a journey with God for a few years where he showed me through mentors, through information, and then also inspiration, what it looked like to be in a partnership type relationship with my body rather than feeling like I was in battle with my body. And so that's what got me there. A lot of suffering, and then God teaching me a different way.
That is so interesting. I love that so much of my own journey has happened because of that struggle. Like all of the realizations have come through those really, really difficult things. And when you talked about the battle with your body, I felt that way for so many years with the chronic illness, where I just felt like we were fighting each other. And there was so much contention within my own person. And I really just started to hate my body. Like, why can't you figure out how to not be in pain all the time? Like, what is going on here? And I had a similar thing where the Lord was just like, you need to stop fighting with this beautiful gift I've given you. And I was like, well, she started it. Like, what are you talking about? But finding that unity working together, I mean, what a powerful, powerful truth. And so I'm wondering, what does that look like to be able to partner together? What does that look like for you?
I've worked with over 1,000 women in a small group program that I run now. And I do online free workshops. I have had almost 50,000 women in registration, and they always tell me what their issues are and what's going on. And what I noticed as a theme among this is this idea with diet mentality. And this is something that's been fed to us in our culture. In fact, it's so nuanced and woven in within our culture that we don't even see it anymore. But the idea is that a woman's value is based upon her perceived beauty. And what is beauty? There's this beauty standard, and it changes from generation to generation. What was considered the ideal beauty standard when in the 90s when I was in high school is different than it is now. And in fact, based upon the age of the woman that I'm working with in my program, I can pretty much tell what she's going to tell me what the ideal body looks like based upon just the generation that they're from. So it's this moving target, right? And then they're told that the closer you get to this ideal beauty standard, the more acceptable you are, the more confident you get to feel, the more you get to accept your body. I think this is such a lie of Satan. And so we first need to acknowledge that within our culture, there's this ideology around women's bodies specifically that's false, that's not in alignment with knowing that our bodies are gifts from God. So first we need to recognize that that's going on. And then we need to also connect with the purpose of our body. And what does that look like? Well, we need to realize that, okay, well, before this life, we chose the plan. We're like, yep, I'm going to have faith in Jesus Christ. I want a body, send me in, right? So in our first estate, we chose our bodies, to have our bodies. And in our second estate, what does it look like to accept our bodies again? And so to realize and kind of pan out and look at in a larger perspective, wait a minute, I chose my body. And in the resurrection, we're going to be together again. What does it look like to be all in on this gift and on this part of such an essential part of the plan is this body? And the world's perception of what beauty is in regards to my body is such a ploy of Satan to distract and distort the purpose of this body. And so first we need to recognize, right, that there's this agenda out there to get women to reject their bodies, to think that there's something wrong inherently with their bodies. So we have to realize that, reconnect with the purpose of our bodies in terms of the plan of salvation. And then also we need to eliminate any influences that tell us otherwise. Content. Like, I've never read a beauty magazine and felt more beautiful. That's never happened. I don't think any woman's ever read a beauty magazine and was like, I feel so beautiful now. Like, they should not be called beauty magazines because no one feels beautiful after reading them, ever. Like, I swore those off years ago. So any content online, any influencers, anything that causes you to lose focus on the truth of what your body is, you just need to stop. Cut it out on purpose. Like, exercise your agency to not allow that to influence your brain. And then the last thing is really this idea of partnership, which I've mentioned. But it's a concept that I teach when they work with me. It's called body partnership, but I've recently started calling it divine body partnership. What does it look like to really be connected with your body? Well, first you have to realize and have some sense of, this is my body, but this is not me. And soon after that experience where I was praying and God said, keep going. It was probably within a month or two of that. I was standing in the bathroom and I was about to get in the shower or something. And that was a time where I would have looked in the mirror and just picked my body apart and just thought, oh, this has to be different. This should be different. This would be so much better if, right? All that. But I didn't do that this time. I was kind of just staring with this like lovingness at myself. And I was looking deeply into my eyes. And I had this really spiritual moment, like this epiphany. It's what we've always been taught since the time we were little in Sunday school, that you have a body and you have a spirit, and your body allows you to live, and then someday we all will die and our bodies will stay here, and then we go back to Heavenly Father, right? Here in this life, especially for women, we think we're our bodies. We really do. We think our worth is what this body looks like. And so I was looking in the mirror and I just had this epiphany. I'm looking at my body, but it's not me. And just this sense of my divine and my eternal being is housed within this body. And so really being able to distinguish the difference between who you divinely are and separate it from your body, and begin to conceive of that, and then from there you move forward in this loving relationship. Because after I had that experience, I stopped getting on the scale to see if I could wear my fitted jeans that day. I stopped, you know what I mean? Like I fed her food that allowed her to feel good, not what can I eat to get away with? What can I, like, it just, everything changed because of this appreciation and realization that, oh wait, this is my gift and she's all in on me. And any pain that I've ever experienced in this life, she experienced it too. And any joy that I experienced in this life, she experienced it too. And there's not one moment, there's not 1 second of my time as I've sojourned on this earth that I've ever been separate from my body. Like, we've done it all together. And so just this, like, rather than this whole shift of just settling into my body in this like coming home type feeling, then if you have health goals, you do them, you go after them, but you do it from this like warm, partnered place, not this, I have to make myself better so I can feel the way I want to feel.
I love that. And it's interesting because when we got on to talk, I thought, wow, you're so beautiful. But what I was seeing as your beauty, and this has changed for me over the years, is the light reflected through your eyes. When I see people, when I saw people as a high schooler, I was recognizing maybe their matchup of the way in which the world defined bodies. But as I've gotten older, one of the indications of true beauty to me is this like sparkle that you can see in someone when you know that they are divine. I love that one of the blessings of chronic illness was learning to see beauty in a completely different way and recognizing that it was so beautiful when I would make decisions for my body that I knew was going to help with my pain. When I changed the way that I ate, it was the very first time that I actually ate food to try to make my body feel better inside and not to eat food so that I can affect the weight or the shape of my body. It was the first time. I didn't even know that that was a thing.
Yeah. And the fact that you didn't even know that was a thing, it's kind of it's this totally no duh concept. But because of the culture we're in, we don't even, like, it doesn't even occur to us, which is absurd. Like, and I know it's strong language, but I think women in our culture have really been smoke screened into realizing how amazing the femininity that's within the female body, and to feed her, because that's what nurtures her. Like that's what allows her to feel well and you to feel well as you're housed within her. And then whatever you do, it feels good because you're not trying to earn your worth. You're actually learning of it. That's kind of a twist off of Elder Wilcox's. Elder Wilcox says, we're not earning heaven, we're learning heaven.
Yeah, we're learning heaven. Yeah, so good.
Yeah. But I think that really is true in regards to our bodies, is that anything we do in this life is not to earn the value or to increase the value. Like, we don't have that power. We didn't create ourselves. Therefore, we don't have the power to add or subtract any value from us. But we can make choices and we can think in different types of ways that allow us to not be able to feel of that worth. And so, like, what your experience was is that you started to nourish your body in a way that allowed her to feel well, separate from trying to get her to change how she looked.
Yes.
And then you started to see that result. And it's such an act of love, and it's such an act of acceptance of this gift that we've been given. My biggest call out to women, and I work with women of faith, not necessarily all women that are Latter-day Saint, but women of lots of different Christian cousin groups, is this realization of, wait a second, I've been taught in the gospel of Jesus Christ, it teaches me that my body is a gift from God. But I don't feel that way when I'm trying to add worth to her by making her look a certain way that the world tells me she needs to look. And so to totally reject that concept and to realign with what does God tell me about my body, it reconnects you with divinity in a way that is not available to access when you are at war and battling with your body.
Yes. I didn't feel like I was honoring myself. I felt like I was punishing myself for so long. So much punishment with chronic illness. It feels like an attack on you. But what I've recognized in my experience is that chronic illness, honestly, is one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given, because it helped me recognize I could be in so much severe pain in my body, but I could feel the peace of God in my spirit. Those two things could coexist at the exact same time. And I'm so thankful that Heavenly Father helped teach me how to eat so that I could change all of these physical effects that I was experiencing, and that I could realign how the Lord talks about food in the Word of Wisdom. Like I had never really recognized that. All of these words meant completely different things to me. And now when I eat, I feel like I'm giving myself like just a little love hug. We're working on it together. We're trying to work together so I can have energy and feel good.
Yes. Well, and that the physical pain you feel isn't being inflicted on you by your body, but that it is a result of this fallen world that you're both experiencing together.
Christ is the great physician. Like he truly wants us to be in alignment with him. And one of the ways that we can do that is by cutting out all the noise you were talking about, cutting that noise out and really focusing on what is the most important thing in this life, which is to be in alignment with him.
Yes. Our world is so crazy when it comes to food. If I scroll through like videos on on Instagram or Facebook, in a period of just 5 minutes, I can watch a video about someone telling me how vegetables are trying to kill us. And then the next one will be like someone saying how no one should ever eat meat because meat will give us cancer. And then the next one saying we should only eat meat. We should only ever eat meat and butter. And then the next one, like, and they all have studies to support their claims, and also people that give testimonials to this way of being. And so it can be really confusing. But this diet mentality that's within our culture, and also the morality that our culture attaches to food, what we're left with is that we stop asking our body what works well for her. Please pay zero attention. How does this feel for my body? I think a really good example of this is something I teach women as they get into that divine body partnership, is I teach them, as you eat food, stay present. Like stay present. How does it, and the kind of mindful eating, right? How does it smell? How do you experience this? How does it feel in your mouth? How does it feel afterwards? Like bite by bite, to just stay present so that you're up here in your prefrontal cortex where your agency is exercised, and not into this lower primal, like natural man brain, right? But just to experience the food for what it actually is in each moment. And what women realize is the food that they thought that they couldn't stop eating, they don't even like. They truly don't even like it. I've had women tell me, I love peanut butter. I can't stop eating peanut butter. And then go through this process and they realize, I don't. Actually, peanut butter is kind of disgusting. And I remember one woman, she goes, I honestly thought that the peanut butter had turned. I made my family try it because she was like, I thought it had turned rancid. And they all tried it and said, no, that's how peanut butter tastes. And she's like, I'd never really actually tasted it. I just experienced all the emotions around it without even actually experiencing it. And as you pay attention, what you'll notice is that the foods that really support your body begin to become delicious to you, because as you stay present, you have actually a physical response. Like when I eat certain whole grains with lots of fiber in them, my body, there's this like, oh, that feels so good to eat. And for some people, maybe that isn't true for them. But how would they know if they haven't even consulted their body? They're the only ones that have ever lived within their body. Women think that if they allow themselves to eat what they want, that they're just going to eat sugar and refined foods all day long. But when you come about it from how we're talking about it, from this place of staying present with your body, that is not the experience that my women I've worked with or that I've experienced. That's not the case. And what's happening is that we're exercising our agency and staying present in our body. And it's always been available to us. We've just been gaslit and smoke screened from a stupid diet mentality.
Yes, gospel principles can be found throughout the different areas of our life. And as I've recognized, men are that they might have joy. That joy is that daily practice of really checking in to see what I really need. Each week of your cycle, there are different things that your body can call to you. Like I was recognizing last week, like, oh, I'm really wanting like some richer antioxidant type foods because it was the week before my cycle. And so I was giving myself that and I felt so good, so good. And I was like, man, this is so amazing. Like, does people know this about their cycle? This is so great.
And if we were thinking in terms of diet mentality, your body might be calling out for a food. And for example, like there's ideas out there of you can't eat fruit, got to watch out for fruit. Those are just sugar, don't eat the fruit. But there might be true vitamins that your body's calling out for. And you could be telling yourself and denying it, say, no, I can't eat that because I'm trying to lose weight. Whereas the very thing that your body needs is that thing. But how can you tell the difference when you're so steeped in outsourcing the agency for your body to others?
Yes. Yes. 100%. I have a daughter and I would really love to lead her in a mindset of honoring her body and not buying into the outside influences and culture. What are some of the ways in which you have led your children and specifically your daughter in that journey?
So I have 3 daughters. Their ages 19, 15, and 9. Something that I think we have to realize is that diet mentality is so nuanced within the culture that they're getting fed that. They are. They can't not be getting fed that if they live in the world, right? Going to school, watching anything, it's going to be there. So regardless of how you show up, realize that you're offering an alternative that is being fed to them, whether it's from you or not. So just realizing that that's going on, and then also realize that we're kind of pioneering a little bit. Because if you think about it, and I think we're getting better as a society as time goes on. I do. I think there's improvement going on, but there's so much morality attached to food choices. Even just just open your ears up to hear it, and you'll hear it. It's, oh, I've been bad today. And why have they been bad? Because of food they've eaten. Or I'm being good today. I'm going to say no to the brownie. And so much morality tied up in making food choices. Like there is no food or amount of food that you can eat or not eat that adds any goodness or badness to you inherently or to your body. Now, certain foods could leave you feeling not physically well, but as regards to worthiness. And so as a mom, really being mindful of my words. And of course, things are going to come out because I was raised in the society as well. And so giving yourself lots of grace for being a pioneer in this avenue, in this endeavor, but just being mindful not to say things in regards to food choices that connect to people's worthiness. And then another thing is don't comment on your daughter's body or body parts ever. Like, just don't ever do that. I haven't put this down into a definite tally, but I would guess that about half of the women that I work with began their body issues right about the time just before or during when they start to develop. So anywhere from 8 to 12, I would say about half right in there start to have body image issues. And if you think what inherently is happening at that time, well, their body's getting ready to have a growth spurt. It's also ready to develop fully into its ability in the feminine, right? To be able to produce life. It's developing that way also. And so what happens at that stage? Well, maybe a girl might put on a little weight to get ready for a growth spurt, right? So then what do family members say? Oh, look at your little pooch. Not to lay any shade in terms of my teenagers to the previous generation. That was just reality to them, right? But we've evolved. We see a different way. You can talk about becoming strong, you can talk about vitality, you can talk about what things your body can do, but don't ever make comments on shapes or sizes of goodness or badness of body parts. So there's the food morality, there's comments about your body that I would say just don't do. But I don't want to only focus on the don'ts, but those are definitely solidly don't do's. But I think in the do's, a lot of it's just going to be how you model it. So how do you talk about your body? Are you constantly looking in the mirror, wondering if your butt looks big? Because your daughters are watching. You know what I mean? Even if you don't think they notice, they're noticing. Now, we don't need to require perfection and we don't need to get weird about any of this stuff. But as you begin to go through those few things that I mentioned earlier in the podcast of reconnecting with the purpose of the body, right? Premortal, here in this temporal existence, and then after, like just in that terms, like if you think about it in that scope, and then also eliminating things that don't align with that true knowledge, even the words that we say to ourselves and the words that we say in our heads. And then also recognizing that you're not your body. So talking to them about how does your body feel when you do that? Like, does that feel good? Do you like my daughter, my 9-year-old, she loves to like do dance and gymnastics and rock climb. And my teenager, she loves to do kickboxing right now. And I'm like, how does that feel when you engage in that activity? To bring awareness to how does it feel? Like talk in terms of feeling. Like, how does that feel? How does it feel when you eat that? Right? How does it feel? Not in a hidden agenda of, I want you to realize that doesn't feel good, so you won't eat that anymore. Like, no hidden agendas. Just allow them to begin to notice and pay attention to their bodies and allow them to be the expert of their body. Because you've never lived in their body, even though you created it, right? Even though you housed it and birthed it for many of us, their biological mothers, but that physically they're the only spirit that's ever lived within their body. And teach them to begin to have awareness around their body, how it feels, how it likes to move, how it likes to be nourished, in those terms. Because then they're the driver behind their own car, right? Then they're the ones that's making the choices. They're not looking around at other people to figure out what works for them. They've been taught to figure it out for themselves.
That's really good. That's really good. A lot of what I've done in therapy, my therapist connects with somatic therapy, which is like where it's showing up in your body. And it's wild because I did not notice that when I think about certain things like traveling always gives me anxiety. But now I recognize like when I think about traveling, I get the same feeling in the same part of my body. My chest gets super duper tight. And because she like called that to my attention so many times, now I recognize it. I'm like, oh wow, I'm feeling anxiety about traveling. And I don't feel like I have to immediately change it or shift it, but like just having that understanding, just understanding how my body's reacting to it helps call my attention like, there's some discomfort there. I can do a little digging. And if I'm wanting to today, I could probably work through some of that stuff. And there's so much empowerment in that understanding that our bodies are in a lot of ways like a way to bring our attention to the things that bring us joy and the things that don't.
After I teach women about that divine body partnership, the very next thing I teach them is emotional awareness. And just to realize so much of what we experience with food isn't the actual food, but the emotional charges around it. And as we gain that awareness somatically in our body, the experience we have with food is forever different because we're actually present, like what I talked about before, but also you realize when I'm not actually truly hungry, when I don't have a nutritional need, but I'm having these cravings to eat, what is it that I'm turning to food to solve for me emotionally? What is that? And as you gain awareness around those emotional pieces, then you're able to exercise your God-given power of choice with them, like what you were talking about. Like you noticed, oh, there's toughness here. If I choose, I can do some work with this. And so I teach women, hey, what are you feeling right now? Are you looking for relief? Are you looking for entertainment? Are you running away from an emotion, some distraction? Or are you trying to create an emotion with this food? Sometimes there's more to do with that. There's lots of layers, right? And it can look different for everyone, but sometimes just learning that and watching it and being aware of it unravels so many years of disordered eating. So many years. Just this realization of I'm now partnered with my body and I'm aware of my emotions. So super powerful.
That's so good. That's so good. Do you have any talks or scriptures that you lean on that have helped you develop this understanding, this perspective, and things that maybe some of our listeners can go and look up? Like, do you have any that are your go-tos?
There have been a lot of great ones over the years, but I would highlight one because I think that it so clearly highlights so many main points that I think are essential for coming out of this deception of Satan, really. He wants women to reject their bodies. And one vehicle in which he does that is through this idea of diet mentality. It is an attack on women. And if we can say, no, thank you, and reclaim our value, or not reclaim, but reclaim the realization of that value, I think the talk I would highlight is called Decisions for Eternity. And it's by our prophet. Do you know this talk? Yeah. It is so good. So good. So he did it back in 2013 in the October conference. And he highlights some real key points. One, that we're a body and a spirit. He also talks about how our body is a sacred gift. And then he actually talks about, I didn't really discover this talk until after I had that experience in front of the mirror of realizing that, wait, I'm in my body. My body is my vehicle. It's my vessel. But this is not me. This is not me. He actually talked about, he said, each time you look in the mirror, see your body as your temple. The truth, refreshed gratefully each day, can positively influence your decisions about how you will care for your body and how you will use it. And those decisions will determine your destiny. How could this be? Because your body is the temple for your spirit, and how you use your body affects your spirit. And he talks about daily refreshing that reality in front of the mirror. And I was like, oh, I did that already. So that's actually something that I would encourage anyone listening to this podcast to do, to look in the mirror and to realize, okay, here's my body, but where am I? And see if you can perceive of your spirit within your body, that there's a separation there. Yes, your spirit's housed within you. So you're operating, you're inhabiting the same space. But this is not me, because at some point I will die and my body will no longer be living and I will no longer be among the living on this earth, right? But we will come together again. So what does that look like to accept my body here in this life? And he recommends doing this with a mirror, which is what I recommend too. So I would highly recommend doing this. It's a great way to not only gain perspective on and realign with that value of your body, but to also begin that partnership process. And then the last thing he talked about is that true liberation comes from leading in and exercising power over appetites and desires for pleasure of the flesh. And I think he talks about in such a beautiful way that we're not it's not like we're trying to willpower and overcome ourselves. I mean, in some way, kind of, but it's more a realization of our power. Once we affirm who we truly are and stand in that power, our God-given power, then so many things that we've been giving our agency up to, it no longer has an effect on us. So like in real life, what does that look like? The stupid peanut butter cup that you thought you couldn't have control with, when you stand in your own power, knowing that you're in partnership with your body and that emotional awareness of how you experience in your body, you can take it or leave it based upon what you choose. And so it can become a really powerful thing in the everyday choices. So that's the one. So Decisions for Eternity, by our prophet, but he was still an apostle at that time, but fantastic talk. And so that's the only one I would highlight, just because if you're going to pick one, that would be the one. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that talk. It helped me a lot through having an appreciation for this powerful gift, for the fact that we have a body that we can make covenants in, and we have a body that we can run across a field. I ran across a field the other day and I felt just like so thankful to feel the wind on my face and the sun in my hair. It was such a spiritual experience. And I realized too that I was not in pain running. And I just felt so grateful to have the opportunity to be on this earth in this body.
Well, and you paid the price to be able to experience that. Like you did the work with your body to do that. And so your appreciation of that was probably so much deeper than if you hadn't had that experience.
Thank you. There were some really just powerful phrases, this very grandiose, really difficult thing to kind of break down, and you broke it down in such a like bite-sized perfect way. So thank you for being here and doing that. It was just amazing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You are so fun. We're best friends now. I think you're great.
I loved hearing the way that Carrie talks about bodies and food and intention. It really inspired me to understand and see my body as the sacred gift that it is, not something that I need to fight against. That peace with my spirit and my body comes from connection, intention, and trust, not restriction. If this episode spoke to you, you can connect with Carrie at www.carrienygaard.com, or you can share this episode with a friend who needs to hear this message. I'll link the talk that she mentioned and her information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. You know that I love you. To find me, you can go to my website, thelatterdayLadies.com, or follow me on Instagram at thelatterdayLadies. Have an amazing week. Bye.